Today we come to 1 Corinthians 7, verse 10 and 11. We come to these two verses, as Paul has just in the previous verses, it says to unmarried and widows, but kind of as we went through yesterday, really most likely about widows and widowers, those that have lost a spouse. And he exhorts them, like Paul, seemingly going through that same situation, to, as much, if at all possible, to remain single. However, he does not say this is the way it is for everybody either. And so now he goes towards those that are married. Now, those that are in marriage, especially as he's talking with a Christian being married to a Christian, as he's talking here very succinctly, he's talking about how important God views marriage, that it's not something to be tossed away, not something that be minimalized. In fact, we have the words in Scripture: God hates divorce, especially because of all of the hurt and pain that take place as a result of that. So he gives to those that are married a charge. He says, to the married, I give this charge, not I, but the Lord. And so he's stating very clearly that what he's giving is a direct revelation from the Lord about how important it is, as much as is possible, to stay in marriage. Now, this is in complete contrast to the Greek culture of the day. This is in complete contrast to even some of the liberal rabbis of the day. The Hillelites said that to the men, even if she gives you a spoiled dish, you can divorce her. Absurdity. You get to Akiba. Even if he found another fairer than she, give her a divorce. Now, you can kind of see the two ends that are being railed against in that day. On the one hand, if she's not subservient and does everything right for me, divorce. On the other hand, well, even if I fall out of love, I'll go to somebody else. And she's fairer, so I'll go to her. We find in Scripture the exact no. Whether you're over here or over here, no. Marriage is to be kept together from where each individual comes from, as much as we are capable. And he goes forward here in these verses. I give this charge. The wife should not separate from her husband. But if she does, she should remain unmarried or at least be reconciled to her husband. And the husband should not divorce his wife. So talking to both sides going on here. Speaks differently because the culture and everything else is different for men and for women. To the women, not to separate. Men, not to divorce. Remembering that in the Jewish culture, only men were allowed to divorce, not women. So with what you are able to, men were allowed to divorce. Do not divorce. Women, they were not allowed to divorce, but they could separate. So do not separate as much as you can. But for the women, he says, but if she does, she should remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. So if anything, you're having a harder amount that is given, just do not divorce to the men. But knowing that things do happen, that these things do take place, we'll get to that a little bit later. But if that happens, remembering, brought together unto death. And that's very hard at times, but it is what we are called on to do. Remain unmarried or be reconciled. Very clear. That just shows how key and integral Paul is pointing out that the Lord views marriage as. Now, if you start off with, you're not going to divorce, you're not going to just go off for, I fell out of love, you're not just going to, well, you didn't do something. No. When you go through all of this and you view how important the Lord views marriage, then from the start and all throughout marriage, the couple, both husband and wife, need to be looking at, this is where the Lord has put us. And if there are difficulties, let us work through them right away. Let us work together now in order to build what the Lord has done. Marriage is, again, being a steward or a servant of the Lord, and being together is a blessing the Lord gives. And so we need to build up that blessing, protect that blessing, and as much as in us lies, keep that blessing going forward. In the Lord's holy name.